When it comes to meditations relating to a subject, what we're generally looking at is contemplation. Contemplation is a little bit different kind of meditation where we are actually using cognition. And I don't want to make this sound too complicated or anything, but what we're doing is taking a subject, we're kind of putting a fence around it. I call it corralling, actually, like a corral that you would put horses or cattle in or something like that. So we're taking a subject and we're corralling it, putting a border around it, and that's where we keep our awareness, our attention, our focus in that area. And contemplation is a type of meditation that can be very useful for topics, such as any of the topics of the Eightfold Path. Generally, we want to use it for something that's very lifting spiritually for us, something that makes us feel good, something that is very educational from a spiritual standpoint. And so, Skillful Livelihood, this fifth step of the Eightfold Path, is an excellent topic for it. And this gives you an idea of how we can do that. This is going to be the first part is a guided meditation, and then we'll have some silence afterwards in order for you to give you an idea of how it works. Now, the guiding is the topic, and it's things that we can kind of technically and kind of mull over in our mind. That's the contemplative aspect of the practice. You know, you taking this subject and taking it at a different level than we would when our eyes are open and we're actually, working with it in the everyday world. So we contemplate through guided meditation, and then our contemplation in the same meditation moves to the silence. Because if we're going to be using this type of meditation as our practice, we're not always going to have somebody guiding it, and we don't want to necessarily have to guide it ourselves, but we want to just go into this silence and be very present and very still, take the topic and work with it, and keep the mind from going outside of the topic. That's really the only difficult part of it, is letting the mind move beyond that area, that topic that we're working with. And so that's what we're working with now and looking at as far as this meditation goes. It's, again, working with step 5, Skillful Livelihood, the Buddhist practices of the Eightfold Path. This is the fifth step, the fifth area of the Eightfold Path. Please bring yourself to a comfortable posture. You can be sitting on a chair or on the floor, whatever feels most comfortable for you. Perhaps your legs are crossed, and if so, you might be using a cushion. And hopefully you're in a place that you've been meditating many, many times, in your home, in the place where you meditate on a daily basis. Straighten the back, but not holding it too rigid. Gently close the eyes. This meditation is a contemplative type of practice, and we're working with a subject that is very important for everyone at some point or another, and that is skillful livelihood. It has to do with our work, how we make our money, and basically how we live 1/3 of our life. Bring your attention to the breath and really feel yourself becoming very present, very still. physically and mentally. Take a few moments and focus on the breath, this amazing, very simple thing that we call breathing. So simple, but yet such a valuable tool, because we can bring our attention to it, we can focus on it, we can use it in many different ways. If our attention wanders away from the breath, we notice this and we can bring it back. It's a very good tool to curb our concentration abilities, and also to be able to bring us into the still presence, which is actually our true nature. Ask yourself the following questions. Do I define who I am by my job? Do I define myself by what I think my job should be? When people ask, "What do you do?" do you immediately think of your work or your area of study? When you define yourself in one or two words, what comes to mind? Do you use a title or occupation, such as doctor or teacher or mother or student? How do you feel if you describe yourself as an adjective? Happy, friendly, cheerful. Notice, does it seem as if there is less ego? By using an adjective instead of a title or your type of employment, do you feel a little bit lighter? Do you feel that you're able to practice skillful livelihood in your area of work or area of doing? Can you do your work without causing any harm to yourself or others? How do you feel when you ask yourself, is my job an inherently wrong occupation? How do you feel when you ask yourself, is my job motivated by greed? Does it harm people or does it help people? And we can ask, does my job cause me to or encourage me to break any of the 5 moral precepts of skillful action that we've discussed? Are there any aspects of my job that disturb me and keep my mind from settling down or keep me from being peaceful? Am I able to be motivated by loving friendliness, loving kindness for all of the people involved in the work I do? Am I able to use my work to free my mind and others from greed, hatred, and all confusion? Am I able to purify my behavior and incorporate my spiritual practice into my work? And ask yourself, do you feel that you would be happier if you did not work? Or possibly had a different occupation? Or would you be happier working someplace else? If so, why? And how can your spiritual practice help you in this area? And notice how you feel when you realize that there are many other people out there that would love to have your present job or do what you're now doing for work. Is that a motivation? Or does it cause stress in any way? An uneasiness? And if so, why? And now ask yourself, what can I do today to make my job more actively helpful for myself and for others? Now sit in still contemplation, asking yourself a number of these questions about skillful livelihood. Does your work cause any harm to yourself or others? Is your work, your job, an inherently wrong occupation? Is it motivated by greed? Does it harm people? Does it harm you in any way? Does your job encourage you to break any of the 5 moral precepts? To refrain from killing and stealing, lying, using or selling intoxicants, or unskillful use of sex and sex products. And are there any aspects of your job that disturb you and keep your mind from settling down, from being peaceful? Now sit in silence for as long as time allows.